It is the middle of October, late in the afternoon, and you are standing at the edge of your own field with a spade in your hand. The ground is damp from the rain 2 nights ago, which is exactly why you picked today. You put your boot on the shoulder of the spade and press, and the first 6 inches come up easy, dark and crumbly, smelling the way good dirt is supposed to smell. Then you go for the second spadeful, and the blade stops. Not a rock. A rock you would feel, you would hear it, you would work the blade around it. This is flat, and it is even, and it is the same across the whole width of the blade, like somebody laid a sidewalk down there under your field and covered it back over. You lean on the handle with your whole weight, and the steel goes maybe another ½ inch and quits. You walk 20 paces and do it again. Same thing, same depth. 6½ inches, maybe 7. And then that floor. Then you walk to the fence line where the tractor never turned and never sat, and the spade slides down 14 inches like it is going through a loaf of bread. Now I want you to sit with this. That floor under your field is not a natural thing. The good Lord did not put it there. It is man-made, it was made by weight, and once you understand how it got there, you will understand why your corn burns up in a 3-week dry spell while the field across the road stays green, and why you keep buying more fertilizer every year just to get the same bushels you got 12 years ago. The seed, the spray, the fertilizer, the horsepower, all of it is a bandage stuck on top of a problem that lives 7 inches down and never gets talked about, because there is no money in talking about it. Here is the piece that will make you angry later. So hold on to it. The tool that tells you whether you have that layer costs about $12. The tool the dealership will sell you to fix it is a subsoiler that runs $9,000 to $22,000, and it will open your pan for 2 seasons before the pan comes right back because the same weight that made it is still driving over it. $12 to see the truth, $22,000 to paper over it. That gap is the reason for this whole video. My name is Menno Fisher. I am Amish, and I farm here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and I am going to be honest with you the way I always am, because honest is more useful than impressive, and there is a great deal of impressive nonsense said about my people on the internet. I gathered the whole of this, the rotation charts, the seeding dates, the manure figures, the plain arithmetic of a small farm, into a book over at mennofisher.com. It is there if you want it, and I will not bring it up again. Now, let me tell you plainly what the bold claim on this video really means, because you deserve that before you give me 30 minutes. You have heard it said that Amish farms outproduce the English farms, that we live in harmony with nature, that we thrive sustainably. I want to take a file to all 3 before we go one step further. We do not outproduce anybody on bushels. Let me say that slowly so nobody can misquote me. My corn does not beat my English neighbor's corn per acre. He pulls 180 to 210 bushels in a decent year. I pull between 130 and 160, and in a bad year less. If bushels per acre is the scoreboard, I lose, and I lose every single year, and I have made my peace with it. What we beat him on is cost per acre, and what is left in the checkbook in February. And those are not the same contest at all. In harmony with nature is a phrase invented by somebody who never carried a dead calf out of a barn at 2 in the morning. Our farms are not a painting. Some are run beautifully and some are run hard, and there are Amish dairies in this county that put more manure on frozen ground than they ought to. And that manure runs into the creek, and the creek runs to the Susquehanna, and the Susquehanna runs to the Chesapeake, and the crabbers down there have every right to be sore about it. That is a true thing about my people, and I am not hiding it to make a nicer video, and there is no such thing as the Amish way of farming. There are settlements. The Ordnung, the understanding a church district lives by, is not written in one book and handed out. Each district decides it, and it differs by the ridge you live on. My district works horses in the field. Out in Holmes County, Ohio, you will find Amish men on tractors with steel wheels. In some New Order settlements, you will find a diesel engine bolted to a forecart, pulled by horses, running a baler. There are Amish farmers here who buy commercial nitrogen by the ton and spray. So when somebody says the Amish do it this way, ask him which Amish and watch him get quiet. So what is actually here for you? This. There is a piece of what we do that is real, that is measurable, that has physics behind it, and that you can start this fall on 11 acres or a quarter-acre garden without owning a single horse. And there is a piece that will not transfer at all, and I will draw that line clearly. Stay with me. I saved the honest arithmetic for the back half, and that is the part folks come back and tell me about. So let me tell you what is really going on down there, because once you see the simple sense of it, everything after makes plain sense. Here is why that floor is there, and I will tell it slow, because almost everybody gets this backwards, including most of the folks who make videos praising my people. You have heard somebody say that horses do not compact the ground the way a tractor does because a horse is lighter. That sounds right. It is wrong. Not the conclusion, the reason. And the reason matters. Because if you have the reason wrong, you will fix the wrong thing. Take my gelding. About 1,600 pounds on 4 hooves, and a draft hoof is 5.5 to 6 inches across, which gives you 24 to 28 square inches of shoe on the ground. 1,600 split. 4 ways is 400 pounds a hoof, and 400 pounds over 26 square inches is about 15 pounds per square inch. But he does not stand still. He walks. And when he walks, he is up on 2 feet at a time. So the instant his weight rolls onto that off hoof, the pressure under it is closer to 30 pounds per square inch. Leaning into a collar and pulling higher yet. Now the tractor. A big rear tire runs somewhere around 12 to 16 pounds of air in it. And here is the thing about a tire. It cannot push on the ground much harder than the air pushing inside it. Add a few pounds for the stiffness of the carcass, and you land at maybe 16 to 21 pounds per square inch under that tire. So sit with that. My horse presses down harder on the top of your field than the tractor tire does. Harder. He wins that comparison, and it is not close. If pressure at the surface were the whole story, the tractor would be the gentle one, and every word you have ever heard about horses and soil would be exactly upside down. But it is not the whole story. And here is the part the engineers know, and nobody says out loud in plain words. The pressure at the surface decides how deep the hoof or the tire sinks in. The total weight on the axle decides how deep the squeeze goes down. 2 different things, running on 2 different rules. Press a pencil eraser hard into your forearm, and you get a sharp dent that is gone in a minute. Now let a grown man stand on your forearm with his heel. Your skin hardly knows the difference, but something down at the bone does, and it will still know tomorrow. Contact pressure makes the footprint. Total load makes the bruise. My horse puts 400 pounds on a hoof. That squeeze fans out sideways and is used up by 6 or 8 inches down. It never reaches your subsoil because there is not enough of it to get there. He can walk that field 1,000 times, and everything he does lives in the top 6 inches. And the top 6 inches is exactly where the freezing and the thawing and the earthworms and the roots go to work every winter and undo it for free. A tractor axle carries 9,000, 12,000, 16,000 pounds. A loaded grain cart coming out of a wet field in October can put 20 tons over one axle. That squeeze does not run out at 8 inches. It carries past a foot, past 18 inches, into ground that has never frozen, that no earthworm has visited, that no root has been in for 30 years, and it does not undo itself. The Swedish soil men ran trials on this for decades, driving heavy axles over plots and coming back to check, and those plots were still measurably tighter down deep a dozen years later. Not a season, a dozen years. Down there is no repair crew. It simply stays squeezed. So the honest sentence about horses is not that they are lighter on the ground. They are not. It is that a horse does his damage where nature fixes it, and a heavy machine does its damage where nothing fixes it. That is the whole difference, and now you can carry it in your pocket. Your plow pan is a cousin of that, but it has its own maker. When you run a plow or a disc or a tiller, the bottom of that tool slides along at one fixed depth year after year wherever you set it. And it does not just cut, it smears. A moldboard drags its sole across the furrow bottom and polishes it the way a trowel polishes wet concrete. And on most farms, one tractor wheel rides down in that open furrow, putting axle weight directly onto that same polished floor. You are smearing it and loading it in the same instant at the same depth every year. Do that 15 years running, and you have not farmed a field. You have poured a slab. Here is what that slab is in numbers, because numbers are how you tell the truth from the story. Good silt loam here runs about 1 1/4 to 1 4/10 grams to the cubic centimeter. Packed weight, loose enough that near half of it is empty space, and that empty space is where the air is and the water sits and the roots go. A plow pan reads 1 3/4, sometimes 1 95/100. Roots start giving up around 1 6/10. By 1 3/4, a corn root is done. It is not that the root is weak. A root grows by pushing, and it can push at about 300 pounds to the square inch, and past that it stops, feels around, and turns. And here is what turning costs you. Corn roots in ground that will let them go 4 to 5 feet down. In a panned field, they go 7 inches, hit the slab, and run sideways like water on a table. Now, an acre of silt loam holds close to 2 inches of water a plant can actually drink for every foot of depth the roots reach. Do the arithmetic with me. 7 inches of root zone is a little over half a foot. Call it 1 1/4 inches of drinkable water in the bank. Corn in July, tasseling in the heat, drinks 1/4 inch a day. 1 1/4 divided by 1/4 is 5. 5 days. Your corn has a 5-day tank. The same corn rooted 4 feet down has 7 or 8 inches in the bank. That is a month. Now you know why one field goes gray and rolls its leaves in the 3rd week of a dry spell, and the field across the road does not. And it has nothing to do with the seed on the bag, nothing to do with the hybrid, nothing to do with the fertilizer program, and everything to do with a floor that a man's own machine built underneath his own crop. He is not farming his farm. He is farming the top 7 inches of it and paying taxes on the rest. So let us go find yours. The parts list comes to about $40, and you likely own half already. A spade, flat and square across the bottom, not a shovel with a scoop in it, because you want to cut a clean wall you can read. A penetrometer, which is a fancy word for a rod with a cone on the end and a handle on top, $12 to $18, or you make one from 3/8 fiberglass rod and a T-handle. Mine cost nothing, because the rod was a broken driveway marker. And a notebook, because a number you did not write down is a number you will argue with yourself about next spring and lose. The last item is free, and it is the one folks skip, so mind it. Rain. You must test this ground damp, 2 or 3 days after a good rain, drained but not dried. Push a rod into a field in August during a dry spell, and you will hit hard everywhere at every depth, and think you have a pan across the whole farm, when what you have is a drought. Push a rod into a soaking field and it slides through the pan like the pan is not there. Dry ground lies to you one way and mud lies the other. Damp ground tells the truth. That is the part most folks get wrong, and it is why half the men who own a probe rod think it is a useless gadget. Now I will tell it slow. 5 steps. Step 1. 2 or 3 days after a rain, go out with the rod. Push it straight down at a steady speed, about 1 inch a second. No jabbing, no leaning in bursts. You are feeling, not fighting. Do it 20 times across the field in a rough grid, and every time note the depth where it goes hard. Step 2. Read what you wrote. If the hard spots come at random depths, 4 inches here, 11 there. 9 over yonder. That is stones and old roots in ordinary life, and you can quit worrying. If they come at the same depth over and over, 6.5 here, 7 there, 6 3/4 there, you do not have stones. You have a floor. Randomness is nature. Consistency is a machine. That one sentence is worth the whole video. Step 3. Prove it with the spade, because a rod tells you where and a spade tells you what. Dig 1.5 feet down and square up one wall clean. Above the pan you see crumbs that break apart in your fingers. At the pan, it changes to plates. Flat, horizontal, layered, like a sleeve of soda crackers laid on its side, and when you pry a piece off, it breaks along the flat instead of crumbling. That plating is the fingerprint. Then follow a root down with your finger. In healthy ground, it dives. At a pan, it hits the plates, makes a right-angle turn and runs flat, and once you have seen a root make that turn, you can never unsee it. That root is telling you where the ceiling of your farm is. Step 4. And here is where I part company with the dealership. Do not rent the subsoiler. Steel is fast. You pull a shank through that slab and shatter it in one pass and drive off feeling like a man who solved something. Then you drive over it in April, and again in June, and again in October with a loaded wagon, and by the third season the slab is back at the same depth. Steel treats the pan. Steel does not treat the reason for the pan. You would not keep taking aspirin for a nail in your boot. Break it with roots instead. There is a plant that does this job for nothing, called a tillage radish, and the seed runs $3 to $5 a pound at 8 to 12 pounds an acre drilled. It sends down a taproot thick as your wrist and 14 to 20 inches long, and it does not care about your plates, because a radish does not have to shatter a pan, it only has to find one crack and swell. A shank breaks the pan along a line. A field of radish drills 10,000 holes through it. And here is the beautiful part. The radish then dies. It winter kills around 20 to 25 degrees and rots, and it leaves a smooth open channel running straight down through your slab. And next May your corn root finds that channel and takes the elevator. And it does not get undone the moment somebody drives across it, because you did not shatter a structure, you drilled through it. Step 5 is the calendar, and the calendar is the whole trick. There is no such thing as a good cover crop, only a good cover crop planted by the right date. These are my dates here in Lancaster, which is Zone 6. Go by your own frost, not by my mouth. Tillage radish by the 1st of September, and the 10th is your hard wall. It needs a good 60 days before hard frost to put that taproot down, and a radish planted the 25th gives you a tuft of leaves and a root like a pencil. Oats, the 15th of August to about the 10th of September, and oats are the beginner's crop because they winter kill dead below 20 degrees and leave a mulch, and you never have to figure out how to end them. Crimson clover, the 25th of August to the 15th of September, and it hands you 70 to 130 pounds of nitrogen an acre by mid-May. Free, out of the air. And cereal rye is your insurance, the 15th of September clear to the 5th of November, and rye germinates at 38 degrees, which means when everything went sideways and you are standing in an empty field on the 1st of November, rye still works. Rye is the crop that forgives you. If you remember nothing else, remember 3. Oats because it is easy. Radish because it drills your slab. Rye because it is late forgiving. Before I give you the rotation, let me pause. If you want to lower bills, waste less, repair more, and run a steadier place, come join our Amish home saving system and community. Ask me your questions whenever you get stuck, and there is no shame in a beginner question over there, because every one of us was a beginner once. The link sits down in the description, the rotation, and it did not come from us, and I will not pretend it did. An Englishman they laughed at and called Turnip Townshend put a 4-course rotation to work in Norfolk in the 1730s. Turnips, then barley, then clover, then wheat. No fallow year, nothing bought in, and it roughly doubled English wheat yields without one bag of anything purchased off the farm. My great-grandfather did not invent that. He inherited it, same as I did, and the only thing my people can honestly claim is that we did not throw it away when everybody else did. Here is the 4-course as I run it. Year 1 is corn. Corn is a glutton. It wants nitrogen worse than anything I grow, so corn gets the manure and corn goes first. Year 2 is oats or barley, and this is the year with the trick in it, because I undersow the small grain with alfalfa and red clover right down in with it. The oats come up fast and shade the ground and hold the weeds off while the little clover seedlings get their legs. The old-timers called that a nurse crop, which is exactly what it is, a big brother walking the little one to school. I take the oats off in July, and the clover and alfalfa are already standing underneath, established, on ground I never tilled twice. Year 3 is hay. Alfalfa and orchard grass, 3 cuttings, sometimes 4 in a kind year. Year 4 is hay again, and here's the whole engine of the thing, the part the pretty videos always skip. That alfalfa has sat there 2 years quietly pulling nitrogen out of the air and packing it into nodules on its roots. And alfalfa roots go 6 feet, 8 feet, and in dry country men have dug them past 20. Then in the fall of year 4, I turn the stand under, and when those roots and crowns rot, they hand my next corn crop between 90 and 150 pounds of nitrogen an acre. And they hand it over slow, through the summer, not all at once in April, where the first hard rain washes it to the creek. That is not harmony with nature. That is a nitrogen factory I did not buy, staffed by bacteria I do not pay, running on sunlight, and it leaves the field with 6 feet of rotted root channels besides. Everybody repeats that legumes fix nitrogen. Fine, but nobody tells you the part that matters, which is that a legume mostly keeps its nitrogen for itself while it is alive, and only hands it over when it dies. Clover, standing in your field, is not feeding your corn. Clover, rotting in your field, is. That is the difference between a cover crop that works and a cover crop that was a waste of seed money, and it took me too many years to learn it. Most of you do not have 25 cows and 40 acres, so here is the same 4-course shrunk to fit, and it works on a 1/4 acre exactly the way it works on 40, because the bacteria cannot tell how much land you own. Bed 1, heavy feeders, corn and squash and tomatoes, on whatever compost you have. Bed 2, roots and light feeders, potatoes and carrots and beets. Bed 3, legumes, beans, and peas, with clover behind them into the fall. Bed 4, brassicas and greens, or rested under a cover. And every year, everything walks over one bed, 4 beds, and a memory. Now the safety word plainly, because this matters, and I would rather you be alive and a little bored for 2 minutes than dead and impressed. If any of this has you thinking about horses, understand what a horse is. A horse is 1,000 to 2,000 pounds of animal that is prey by nature, and prey animals do not think when they are frightened, they move first. Never stand directly behind one. And never wrap the driving lines around your hand or your wrist, no matter how tired your arms are, because a team that bolts with your hand in a wrap will take your hand or take you, and there are men in this county carrying the proof of that around every day. And if a team does bolt, you let go. Let go. The plow is worth money. You are not worth money. You are worth more than money. If you go the other way, and you are around machinery, know the power takeoff shaft. 540 revolutions a minute is 9 turns every second. And a shirt cuff or a bootlace touching that shaft is faster than your nerves. That guard is the only thing between you and a very bad afternoon. And one more, because it kills good men on farms like mine, quietly, every year. If you have a covered manure pit and you agitate it, The stirring rolls hydrogen sulfide out of it, and it smells like rotten eggs right up until it is thick enough to kill you, and then it stops smelling like anything at all because it deadens your nose inside of a minute. Your nose quits before your lungs do. Men have died in those pits, and then a brother went in after and died too, and then a neighbor. Nobody goes in. Ever. Not for a drop tool. Not for a body. You call for men with air on their backs and you wait. Same for a silo in the first 2 weeks after filling, where the gas is nitrogen dioxide, and you may not smell that one at all. Now, what this does not do, plainly, so you do not go in dreaming. It does not make your ground good in 1 year. A pan that took 15 years to build does not come out in a season. First fall, your radish drills its holes. Second and third year, the roots start using them, and your worms come back. 3 to 5 years to genuinely change the deep ground of a field, and any man selling you faster is selling. It does not raise your bushel count next year. It may lower it. When you cut your nitrogen because you think the clover has you covered, and the clover does not, you will find out in August, and it will cost you. Do not cut your fertilizer to 0 on the strength of a video. Cut it a quarter, watch the crop, and let the field teach you. It does not turn you Amish. You are not getting a team, and I will tell you exactly why in a minute. Because it is not the reason you expect, and it does not save the world. It saves the top 11 inches of one field that belongs to you. That is a smaller thing than the phrase sustainable agriculture, and it is a truer thing, and it is worth more. So, let us do the arithmetic. And I will use real numbers even where they embarrass me, because a number that only flatters your own side is not arithmetic, it is advertising. A used 200 horsepower row crop tractor with hours on it runs $95,000 to $180,000. Say a man buys one at $180,000 and finances it 7 years at 8.25%, which is not a cruel rate, that is just a rate. His payment is about $2,800 a month. Call it $33,900 a year, before he has bought one kernel of seed, before diesel, before a wrench touches it. Now spread that payment over his ground. Farm 2,000 acres, and it is $17 an acre. 17, a rounding error. Farm 40 acres, and the identical machine, the identical note, is $848 an acre. Hold that against what 40 acres can pay him. Corn at 165 bushels at $4.30 is $709 an acre. Gross. Before seed, before fertilizer, before spray, before fuel. So the payment alone eats the whole crop and is still hungry. Then the seed man wants 105 to 130 an acre. The fertilizer 180 to 240. The herbicide 38 to 65. The diesel 23, and the man is upside down by better than $500 an acre. And he has not eaten yet. Do you see it? The machine does not care how many acres you have. That is the entire thing, and it is why the countryside looks the way it looks. The payment is a fixed weight, and the only way to make a fixed weight light is to spread it thinner. And the only place to get more acres is your neighbor. So he buys the machine, and the machine makes him buy the neighbor's ground, and the neighbor leaves, and the machine gets bigger, and now he needs the next neighbor. He is not greedy. I know these men. Some are the finest men I know. They are carrying something that will not let them stand still. The machine set the minimum size of the farm and everything else out here, the empty houses, the closed school, the church with 11 people in it, followed from that one piece of arithmetic. Now my own books, including the ugly part. A ton of dairy manure carries roughly 9 pounds of nitrogen, 4 of phosphate, and 8 of potash a plant can get at, and priced at what the dealer charges that ton is worth about $11.60. I put it on at 14 tons to the acre. That is $163 an acre. And it arrives here every day of the year, whether I want it or not. And my cost to move it is a wagon, a fork, and a horse. That is not virtue. That is what happens when the animal that eats the crop lives on the ground. The crop came off. Modern farming shipped the cow to Kansas, and now the corn has no manure, and the cow has no field, and both halves must buy what the other half is throwing away. And here is my ugly part. My horses eat. There is no diesel bill on this farm, and folks love to hear that and stop listening right there. But my fuel bill is paid in acres. 6 to 9 acres of this farm exist for no reason but to feed the engines, and that is a fifth of the place. In 1915, before the tractor, this country had on the order of 93 million acres in crops, for no purpose but feeding horses and mules. A quarter of the cropland in America was a gas station. So do not let anybody, including me, tell you the horse is free. The trade only works on 40 acres because my fifth of an acre in oats is cheap, and his $848 an acre is not. Now, who profits? There is a great deal of money in a machine a man finances for 7 years and replaces in 12. There is a great deal of money in a bag of seed he must buy again every single April, and I mean must, because the traded hybrids do not come true if you save them, and saving them is against the agreement he signed at the counter besides. There is a great deal of money in a jug of chemical sprayed 2 and 3 times a season, and in a ton of nitrogen bought because his cow lives 1,000 miles away. And there is no money at all in a 2-year stand of alfalfa that pulls 130 pounds of nitrogen out of the sky for nothing. There is no money in a $4 radish that drills the pan the $22,000 subsoiler was supposed to fix. There is no money in telling a man to stay off the field 2 more days in April. There is no money in a rotation because a rotation is not a product, it is an order of operations, and nobody has yet figured out how to put an order of operations in a bag and sell it to you every spring. So the 4-course sits quiet in farmhouses like this one, and the seed corn goes up. From the mid-1990s to the mid-2010s, the price of a bag of seed corn went up better than 3 times over, while the yield out of that bag went up maybe 30%. 4 companies now sell most of the seed on this earth. A man buys a combine for $700,000 and cannot legally get the software to diagnose his own engine in his own shed. The outfits will tell you they sell iron, and they do. But look where the steady money lives. Look at the finance arms, the notes, the paper, tens of billions in receivables. The tractor is the hook. The payment book is the fish. And I will not stand in my barn and tell you there is a room somewhere with men plotting against your soil. There is not. I know the fellow at the dealership. He coaches ball. He is decent. He would pull your truck out of a ditch at midnight. It is worse than a conspiracy and stranger, because a conspiracy you could break up by opening the door of the room. This has no room and no door. Every man in it is doing an honest day's work, and the whole of it still ends with a slab under your field and a note on your barn, and nobody had to arrange a bit of it. Money went where money could be made, and the plain old knowledge had nobody behind it with a checkbook. So it went quiet, not banned, not buried, just never worth anybody's while to say out loud, which is why I am saying it out loud. Now, why you are not buying a team, and the reason is not money, and it is not religion. A tractor is equipment. A horse is a dependent. You park a tractor in November, and it is where you left it in March. A horse eats on Christmas, gets colic at 4 in the morning in a snowstorm, and needs a man who can read what he is about to do a half second before he does it. That last thing is not in any book. It lives in people. I got it standing next to my father from the time I was 7, and it took years, and I was not a quick study. So no, you are not getting a team. And you have not lost a thing, because the team was never the point. The team is the part of this that is ours and does not travel. What travels is 4 things, and they weigh nothing. Rotate, so the ground gets a rest and a different job each year. Return your fertility where it was grown. Do not ship it off and buy it back. Right-size your iron to your acres instead of buying acres to fit your iron, and stay out from under the note, because after that the note does the choosing and not you. That is what my great-grandfather actually had, and none of it required a horse. The horse is only how we happen to carry it. So here is what I want you to do this week. Watch the sky, and 2 or 3 days after a rain, take that rod and push it 20 times across your worst field and write down every depth. That costs $12 in one afternoon. Then read your list. Scattered depths mean stones, and you can go to bed easy. The same depth over and over means a floor. And now you know something about your own ground that the man who sold you your last 400 and a res of fertilizer never told you. Then dig one hole, 18 inches, one clean wall, and follow one root down with your finger and see whether it dives or turns. Then look at the calendar. Before the 10th of September, get radish seed in the ground. If you have missed it, get rye. Right out to the 5th of November. And do one more thing, the hardest one, and it takes no tools. Take whatever you owe on your equipment, the whole balance, and divide it by the acres you actually work. Write that number down and look at it a minute. You do not have to show it to anybody. Just know it. Most men out here have never once done that division, and I think that is on purpose in both directions. Now tell me in the comments what county you live in and how many acres you actually work, and if you went out with a rod, I want the number. Tell me what depth you hit and whether it was the same twice. I would rather be shown than sit here agreeing with myself. And if your grandfather kept a rotation, or your grandmother kept a book of what went in which field and when, write it down here. Those little family orders of operation are exactly the kind of knowledge that disappears when nobody writes them down, and the comments under this video are how we save them. I read every single one. Next time I will show you the other half of this, the fertility itself, the manure and the compost, how we get every pound of it back on the ground it came off of without buying one bag of anything, and why our pile keeps working in February when the English pile is a frozen brick. It is the natural next step after today. Go find your floor. Go find it this week, while the ground is still damp and still telling the truth. Because the people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.